Hi everybody, this is Shannon from Cottage. Today we're going to discuss how lobster claw clasp can help you date necklaces and bracelets. And oh, wee, is it a mess. A lobster claw clasp looks just how it's described. Almost everyone involved with vintage jewelry will tell you, if it has a lobster claw clasp, it's not vintage. Well, that's just not quite accurate. Remember, vintage means 20 years old or more. Just a note, you can pause on photos anytime to study them during this video. If we go way back in time, huge snap hooks, which are the predecessors to lobster claw clasps, were used for working purposes, attached to ropes, harnesses, and chains, etc. Look at these examples. Remember, they all would have been very large. This is from 1883. This one is from 1902. This example is from 1918. This one is from 1903. Look at how this giant version compares to some of today's lobster claw clasps. A special kind of snap hook, called a dog clip, was used on pocket watch components during the Georgian and Victorian eras from 1714 to 1901, and it's still used today. It didn't take long for inventors to begin patenting variations to be used on bracelets and necklaces. In 1916, we see a great crossover from a pocket watch snap hook to a lobster claw type clasp. You can see they patented a lobster and spring ring version. On the second half of the picture, you can see more detail. In 1917, we have this example of a sister clasp. I've seen these before on 1940s gold-filled bracelets. In 1947, we have this example from France. These long, narrow clasps were often used with gold and silver, particularly in Europe, and became very popular in the 1970s and 80s. In 1948, we have this example from Switzerland. In 1959, we have this example, which is kind of cool because you pull back the lever on the side. In 1976, we have this example, which is very unique, patented by Monet. The second photo shows how it opens on the top, just like a lobster claw. These were pretty much phased out by the end of the 80s, so these are pretty time specific. The following examples will show you how popular the long, narrow clasp became in the 70s and 80s. This same clasp was patented in France and Germany in 1975 and 1976. In 1981, we have this example from France. And also, this is from 1981. In 1982, we have this example. And in 1984, we have this example. Photo 2 shows you how it opens, which is kind of cool. In 1988, we have this example from Germany. Here's where things get more modern. In 1992, we have this example. When you pinch the two sides together, it causes one side to lever open. The second photo shows you how it does that. In 1993, we have this example. Doesn't this look just like the pocket watch clasp? In 1993, we have this example. This carries on the narrow trend. And in 1996, we have this example. This is the lobster claw clasp people are referring to when they say, if it has a lobster claw clasp, it's not vintage. Well, vintage is 20 years old, which technically means that anything made with this lobster claw clasp between 1996 and 2004 is vintage. But how do we know when the item was made? Technically. However, if you see these latest lobster claw clasps, particularly with this lightweight extender chain, you should seriously question if the item is vintage. Okay, to sum everything up, there are no hard and fast rules for dating jewelry with lobster claw clasps. Could something be vintage if it has a lobster claw clasp? Well, the answer is yes. The clasp may be an older variant. As we've seen today, there are many, many examples. Also, yes, the piece may have had the clasp replaced. Sometimes a whole entire piece is redone, and sometimes someone just hates a clasp, and so they replace just the clasp. Also, yes, if there's a lobster claw clasp, it may be vintage, just barely. Remember, anything from 1996 to 2004 would be with the big one. But sometimes the answer is no, it might not be vintage, because someone is purposely misleading you. Sometimes sellers fudge about dates so they can list their items as vintage or sell their item for more money, unfortunately. And also, no, sometimes someone is clueless. There are hundreds and thousands of people selling jewelry with no good foundational knowledge, and they guess how old things are. So just because you find a listing or a reverse image search or someone tells you how old something is, does not make it so. That's just how it is. And also, unfortunately, no. Clasps that are patented long ago are still made today. For instance, the snap hook used on pocket watches is still made and used today. So just because you see something that you know is an older clasp doesn't mean that that makes your piece from an older time period. The moral of the story is a clasp alone does not date a piece of jewelry. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.